I want you to know in Texas we will continue to protect the private property rights of farmers, of ranchers, and individual property owners from an overreaching government that always seems to be trying to do something to your property rights.
Texas farmers say this is their biggest priority this session, too. Protections when private companies try to seize their land.
But the group representing pipeline companies and electric utilities says that it's concerned about proposed legislation.
KXAN's Steffi Lee shows us the debate through one Texas farmer's experience.
The land that I currently own and farm on has been in my family since 1855.
Farmer Neil Walter fought to keep his livelihood both times when pipeline companies told him they needed his land for their projects.
If we take candy from a baby, that's not very nice.
He had to advocate for himself.
I'm not an attorney. I'm not very well versed in the world, but I could tell that I was by far the underdog in this.
He and other farmers want the state to pass laws protecting private landowners through more transparency and minimum requirements for the private companies taking over the property.
It didn't even require that the pipeline be buried. It could have been laid on top of the ground. That's how weak it was. Simple things like don't leave trash on my place when you leave. I could have had 20 tires left on me.
We think it's a fairly well-balanced process.
But attorney George Christian says pipeline companies, for example, hardly ever have to face landowners in court.
It's very small. For pipeline electric utilities, it's in the 0.5 to 2% range.
Instead, both sides usually reach an agreement.
We are not against progress. We just want good, fair, and honest dealings.
Steffi Lee, KXAN News.
And we wanted to know, how often is eminent domain being used in Texas? And that's a harder question to answer than we first thought, because quite simply the state is not tracking it. As Texas A&M Dean Andrew Morris pointed out for us, if the state collected information like the prices paid for land and made it available to homeowners, they would be in a better position to evaluate whether they're being offered a fair offer.
And when it comes to just compensation, there's no set formula for that here in Texas. We're one of 29 states that uses what's called the broad instruction approach to determine land value. Ultimately, it's up to the courts and special commissioners to determine the local market value of the property at the time of the taking. But there are no uniform rules everyone uses to help calculate that number.